Baker team. Highly encourage you to reach out to them and get get a relationship going. And they go above and beyond and do everything that they can in their power to get your offer or get your buyer's offer accepted. And that's really one of the most important things right now. Obviously, the way inventory is and houses are going on the market and 5, 10, 15, 20 offers. So what do you do in order to help make your offer stand out? And some of the things that I'm going to share may not be very, very popular, or broker approved. So I wanted to make sure that I had Susan here to correct me where if I go awry. But Susan, one of the things that we do before we actually submit an offer is you could call it research, you could call it stalking, but we research the other agent. We want to know everything that we can about that agent. We want to know who they are. We want to know what brokerage that they're from, because that can determine a lot of different things if situations go south. We want to know if we know them. I want to know if I know this agent from a past transaction. And I will always, put their phone number in my cell phone and see if something pops up. And every agent that I do a transaction with, I put something in there so that I know what transaction it was. I want to know how long they've been in the industry. And I want to know what their production looks like. If it's a brand new agent that doesn't have very much production during the negotiation phase, I'm going to handle it differently because I feel like I'm going to be able to get more information. I'm going to be able to manipulate the situation a little bit more than I would if I'm up against an agent who's been in the industry for 20 years and is a top producer every year.
I think that gathering any and all information that you can that's out there and that you can about who your opponent, I guess you could say, is. The only thing I would caution is, find out, is some funky number and see who they are. And production can be goofy though, because I will tell you that if you looked at mine from, I don't know, like not the last 3 years here, but the 10 years prior, 90% of the time I put all my deals under my agent's name because I don't care. Like I didn't care about getting any kudos about whether a deal was in my name or not. It just wasn't something that was important to me. And it was more important for some of my agents. So I put myself as secondary or whatever, even if they were my deals, because I didn't care. So if you look at my production, you're gonna think I'm a sloth, but I trust me, I'm not. So just know that, and especially if somebody's working on a team, like a big team. Some teams require that every single deal goes under, their leader's name, but those agents could have literally dozens and dozens in a year. So, use that in perspective. But I agree. I would want to know how long they've been in the business. And how you could tell without even looking them up is you look at their MLS code on their listing, on any of their listings, and whether they have a 0. Like my MLS code is SC, due to a prior marriage, forget the C part, 098, because I was the 98th agent licensed in Arizona with the initials SC. That tells you how old I am. So
well, we could do a whole webinar on the last name that you're using right now.
Yeah, we could. We've got a few.
Yeah.
I knew I was open myself up for that, but I just walked in willing. But that's a really easy way to look at the digits next to their, we get people that are, I've seen some 009s.
Bob's
like
0001.
Yeah, exactly. Bob is 00001. So that'll tell you how long they've had. So you can't get a different MLS ID. I couldn't change mine if I wanted to.
Yeah, and Marge Lindsay is ML just 1. Right?
Yeah, Marge is negative.
It's not foolproof. There's nothing that's foolproof. But I do know for me, if I find out that the agent's only been licensed for 3 months and does not have any transactions underneath their belt, I'm gonna have a better chance of getting as much information as I can from that listing agent before I submit the offer. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to submit the highest and the best offer. Also, I'm not afraid to look them up on social media, see whether we have any common interests. because this is sales. It's, I'm selling. But second thing, and this is where I get into trouble, and I know some agents aren't going to like this at all. But first of all, when we do make that phone call to the agent, I do want to find out anything that's going to sweeten the pot. Such as are they hell bent on a specific title company? Do they want a specific title company? Yeah, I don't like using other people's title companies, but I'm not going to lose a deal over a title company. What close of escrow date is their seller looking for? Are they looking for post possession? Two of our most recent accepted contracts, when we called them, there was nothing inside the MLS indicating that the seller was looking for a post-possession scenario. But when I brought it up, they're like, oh yeah, we have to have a post-possession scenario. So we were now the only offer that had a post-possession agreement in place when we submitted the offer. I want to make it as easy as possible for that seller to accept my client's offer. I know some people, are on the fence, don't like cover letters, like cover letters. We are, for our team, our cover letter strategy is highly effective. And case in point, last weekend, we got an offer accepted, and that agent said specifically, we beat at the other one because of the cover letter. But where agents don't like me, and I could be wrong on this, and this is why I wanted to have you on, but I ask the listing agent and say, okay, what is that bottom line number? Where do we need to be in order to make our offer stand out and the best? And I sometimes get, well, that's not fair to other agents. In my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not about fairness to other agents. I don't care about being fair. I feel like my fiduciary responsibility is to my seller and to net them the most amount of money. So that is a conversation I'll have with another agent. Am I wrong?
Nothing that you said that you do as a strategy for leverage, that's nothing wrong with any of that. In fact, I strongly support all of it, because it's all those little things that you said first that make it appealing to the seller. Your whole goal, with obviously taking care of your buyers, the whole goal, but is to look as best as you can to that seller so that you stand above in some way. As long as you're doing honestly, obviously can't lie, and there's nothing that you said or did that was wrong. And if you can get the listing agent to spill something they're not, maybe shouldn't or shouldn't spill, that's your job. Now, I'm going to take the word fair and play with it a little bit. You are obligated to be fair with all parties. But I'm sorry, fair is not a objective term. It's a subjective term. So as long as you're not being a jerk, like outwardly rude, lying, which you can't do. But if you're fishing for information, yes, that's outstanding. That's not being fair. Fair, yeah. And again, fair means, again, not purposely doing something to harm another party. Well, you're not. You're purposely doing something to promote the interests of your client. Are you going and doing something awful to the seller or the listing agent? No. You're asking questions, and then just ask. They don't have to answer. Totally fine.
Yeah, and I know agents get their feathers ruffled. Again, it's not. I'm not in the business of worrying too much about people's feelings, because I represent my client. And if I was an unlicensed agent and I hired somebody to sell my home, I would expect my agent to do what it takes to get. And I'd authorize them, share anything that you want to share about any offer that we've received, because I want you to get me the best possible price for my home. And then the third thing, and still, agents do get caught up in this, and they won't divulge that information. And good on them. If that's their policy and that's how they operate their business, that is fine. Mm-hmm. However, going back to my previous conversation with Matt Baker, have your lender call the agent as well prior to or right after the offer is accepted. Matt is right. I have talked to several lenders And I have had conversations with other listing agents. Agents aren't having lenders call on behalf of the buyer. Not even agents aren't even calling. We're still, Ryan and I, we're still getting offers. People, agents will text us, or we'll just get an offers email to some of our email to us for some of our listings, and we don't get a phone call. You make it, when you do make that call, you stand out. But then what I was trying to allude to with Matt is sometimes agents won't give us that bottom line number, Susan, but they will sing like birds to a lender. And I don't know why that is, but that your lender's got to be calling and asking the same type of questions. What is that number that it is going to take in order to get this borrower contract accepted?
Perfectly acceptable. And you know what I find even funnier is, and you know this, like in a normal market, you should be doing all this. Everything you just said, I don't care what the market is, you should be doing this stuff.
Yeah, and so agents tend to tell lenders things. I sound like a 2-year-old there. That should be things in there, but they'll tell their lenders or your lender things that they won't tell you. And I would say if your agent isn't calling and refusing the call and or asking the bottom, what is that bottom line number? In my opinion, it is time to shop for a new lender. We've had conversations with all of our lenders to ensure that this is going on and that they're doing this. But I would also on the reverse side, or not the reverse side, but in addition to Susan, make sure you give your lender a heads up that you're going to go out showing homes for so-and-so this weekend and you're likely to put in an offer. Sometimes we get in the habit of we go out, we show homes, we get ready to write an offer, the lender doesn't even know it, and then we're getting upset because we're trying to track them down at Sunday at 6 o'clock when they're with their family to make a phone call. So I think there needs to be a balance there. We need to, we need to treat our lenders fairly. So give them a heads up. And I understand some situations just happen very, very quickly. But if you're working with a borrower, you're working with a buyer, and you know ahead of time that you're likely to put in an offer this weekend, just give the lender a heads up. They got families too.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you're an agent and you're not on this, some amazing team like the Recon team, and you're just an agent working on your own, you need to have a team. You need to have your team, your lenders and your people, and I'm not saying you can only have one inspector or one title company, because that's never a good idea to refer, just send a client to one. I'm saying have your team together, your outside vendors that will support you and help you and it goes both ways. You got to help them too. Be supportive. Don't throw your title company under the bus. Don't throw your lender under the bus. Don't, when things happen, because they will, don't say, oh, my lender screwed up. Stuff happens. And keep that team as your positive supporting group.
Absolutely. And I know this may not be popular for some of you listening. I don't want to see this on the agent forum this afternoon. So if you don't like it, you can give me a call. We can talk some more about it. But let's go through some announcements, Nick.